Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to an all-new Season 3 of the MindShare PodCast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by the Buzz Conference. Emily Misk, the mortgage coach with Port Credit Mortgages, license number M180011813. And of course, Kit's Keep in Touch Systems. Now, I'm very grateful that our friends at the Buzz Conference are here with us once again today. As you know, I am fortunate to be a keynote speaker with them on a regular basis, and I am a big supporter of everything they continue to do. In fact, if you haven't yet, make sure to grab your tickets for the next event. It is called Connect and Collaborate. This is a virtual event taking place on March 25th to the 26th, and this is where experience and innovation meet. Speakers include Phil Soper, Tim Hudak, Carolyn Chang, Mississauga, Ontario Mayor Bonnie Crombie, founder of the agency in Beverly Hills, Maurizio Umansky, and myself. And that's just the beginning of the list. As always, this event is going to be loaded with valuable content. And you're going to love this. It is absolutely free for you. So make sure you save the date, March 25th to the 26th, and book your tickets. I also want to mention that the Buzz is hosting 4 speaker spotlights in February this month. This is happening every Wednesday, just before our podcast at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, with a different speaker each week. This month includes a bunch of my buddies, Stacy Secrets, Ryan Smith from Launch Your Farm, Catherine McIntosh from realestate.love, and Kelly Scarr. Catherine is actually presenting today, and I'm very pumped for her. You can find out everything you need to know about all of the great events put on by the Buzz Conference by following at the Buzz Conference on Instagram. Registration links are in their bio. We also have mortgage agent Emily Misk with the mortgage coach and owner of Port Credit Mortgages sponsoring the show today. She's a strong advocate for collaboration and building long-lasting relationships, and we are very excited to collaborate with her on this episode. She is always looking for solutions and outside-the-box ways to exceed her clients' expectations, and that is a way to help more people and get more done. She's all over social media, so be sure to connect with her on her Instagram at Port Credit Mortgages. And I love this. Not only is she the mom of 2, but she gave birth during the start of the pandemic at 2 a.m. and then did 2 deals the same day while snuggling with her newborn. And of course, Kits is always with us. Kits offers a fully loaded cross-channel marketing suite for the real estate industry, including tools to help you manage your business, build mindshare, and drive even more sales. You can learn more on my site, mindshare101.com, by clicking on Marketing. And of course, I want to share that our push to 100 reviews is still on. We are working to get to 100 reviews on iTunes, so here's how it works. Just go to iTunes, rate the show, leave a review, and you will be entered into a draw to win a free one-to-one strategy coaching call with me. I would be grateful if you went to iTunes as soon as you are done this episode. In fact, if you want, go ahead and click pause right now and go over there, leave the review, and come right back. Because today's episode is number 117. Raised in Mississauga, he attended the University of South Carolina, where he completed his Master's of Business Administration degree with honors. When he came back home to Canada, he spent 2 years in the corporate sector, working as a financial analyst, but felt his true love was marketing and sales. That's when he decided to embark upon his real estate career, and he has never looked back. His commitment to his clients and work ethic are unparalleled, and his unique and innovative approach to the real estate business includes assembling a team which call themselves Team McDadi. All of this allowing him the opportunity to continually grow his business while ensuring his clients receive the highest level of service. And in recent years, he has been featured on both television and radio talk shows, helping to educate the public about the real estate market. And when in Mississauga and anywhere near Toronto, it isn't hard to spot him on billboards, CP24, and courtside at the Raptors game. And as a direct result of his efforts, he continues to be one of the top-ranking realtors in the continent. And now we get to add the MindShare podcast to the list of this marketing machine. This week, I am joined by top Producing Realtor Sam McDadi to discuss how to dominate in real estate. Sam, welcome to the MindShare PodCast.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you, man. It's great to see you again. It's I got to say though, before all this business talk, we're missing these Raptors games, man. We're really missing all this stuff.
Yeah, it's really not the same. I remember last year I was at a Nick Nurse fundraiser, and I think at that game or that raised fundraiser, that's when it first became apparent one player tested positive. That night they suspended the league, and it's never really been the same. But it's, we're going to watch, I guess, from afar for now. Hopefully next year we're back at it, and they've got a good team. They're rebounding. So, it's not the same for sure, but next year I'm sure there'll be home games again.
Well, and you know what? We cross our fingers for that, but I will say this, and somebody put this out the other day, and they had mentioned that so what was it? The Tampa Bay Rays went to the World Series. The Tampa Bay Lightning won the Stanley Cup. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers just won the Super Bowl. Hey, Raps are playing in Tampa. Is there another NBA championship in the works for us here, Sam?
The formula looks good. The formula looks promising.
It's strategy, man. Maybe they were planning this one the right way. But listen, this show is all about building mindshare. And the idea is to help our audience learn how to get out there, market their business so that they can essentially grow their business. And when we look around this business, your bottom line, you're one of the best in the entire industry at this thing. And I was hoping that we could take a few minutes of your time today, pick your brain about all this stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. So I was reading business background in business admin, true love for marketing. What is the first thing that anyone in real estate, anybody in this space needs to do to market their business? Like, what's the starting point? What do they need to know before they even implement anything?
Well, for me, it was important when I got in the business. They gave me what was back then known as a Bowers book. And they said, okay, start calling the alphabet and find somebody who wants to sell a house. I said, I did an MBA and I worked in corporate finance, and that was great. But, I don't see myself cold calling for 40 years. That wasn't for me. So I said, let me create a brand where people call us. So that way I can sell my skill sets versus having to call 100 people to maybe have 99 rejections. So I think it's important, if somebody wants to take this business serious, to start recognizing you want to build a brand that's identifiable with real estate. So when you think of Sam McDadi, it should be synonymous with real estate. And I think that's what people should start doing. And initially you may not have the money to go all in, but whatever you have, maybe put 10, 20% of your earnings or profits back into your business. That's the way to ensure long-term wealth, so you can ensure longevity in the business as well.
So when we're, developing a brand, right, and we say something that's synonymous with real estate, one of the things that people think often about is developing a brand is a set of colors and a logo. I would say as a marketer, it goes so far beyond that. What's your thoughts on that part? Like when we say developing a brand, to go a little bit more, let's say micro from that and say to anybody here listening, hey, take some notes. Here's what to do with this. So the first step you're saying is develop the brand. What kind of things there could they identify?
Well, for us, we want to make sure, initially when I started my career, I was a first-time buyer specialist. So, we almost got attached to that. You're only a first-time buyer, you're not doing high-end homes. And about 12, 14 years ago, we said, we've got to get a piece of that market as well. We have a lot of value-added services, so let's enter into that market. And we did that so efficiently that within 6 or 12 months, we cornered that market, almost at the expense of people thinking we did do small homes. So our message changed to no house is too big or too small, to make people realize it doesn't really matter what price range we're dealing with. It's about the service experience. If you build a client for life relationship, really that's the most important piece for people to realize that if you treat your clients properly and treat them well, they're going to give you a referral business that's going to keep you going infinitely long. And if you don't, you're not going to be in the business for too long.
You see, there was the big takeaway right there was that, and we hear this so often. I was listening recently to some interviews with Irvin Magic Johnson and with Usher and Scott Braun, and Usher and Scott Braun brought in Bieber, right? Big time people, and John Travolta. And they were all talking about the same thing, was you've got to get out there and think about how can you get out there and help people. And when your focus is on that and how you're helping the audience, how you're helping everybody around you, things seem to happen. You seem to grow your brand. And, the idea around communication and level of respect and level of service. Sam, I think that there's a big percentage of people in our industry that don't think about it so much for the longevity as much as they do about the deal that's right in front of their face. How often do we hear, I'm working on this listing right now, I can't focus on anything else.
Yeah, and it's a mistake because if you're in it for the long run, you can't think singularly. You have to think about the big picture, right? And that's really taking care of your clients, doing it the right way, build on solid footing. If you're thinking about that one deal only, you're not going to be in business for too long. And really, this is such a beautiful career. And this is a career, really, you can do this forever. So for me, people say, when do you want to retire? Why do I retire? I mean, I'm at the pinnacle of my career. People call us to do business. I love what I do. I'm excited about it. I'm passionate about it. So this run would be till they bury me, 8 feet under. So if
I
you
love it,
find a
man.
vocation you like, though, if you actually, and I think that's the key thing, if you can't find a vocation you like, it's not work. I mean, I look forward to every day working, real estate for me is just an extension of my lifestyle, which is how people should view their vocation if they're going to have success.
It's interesting that you say that, because one thing that we do talk about a lot in real estate, especially when you first get in, is like, what does your exit strategy look like? And we paint that picture because oftentimes there are people that get in the biz. And look, if you love it and you're going to work until literally they put you 8 feet up, keep rocking it. There are people that come in with this aspiration of some point, they're going to build this team and they're going to be able to back off and do less work. And I think that exit strategy is something to focus on, but much the same when you really are passionate, it's almost like, what exit strategy? I'm just going to keep moving, Let me ask you this then. So we build this brand and we've got this sort of persona that we're trying to create, but we're still pretty fresh. What was the first thing that you did once you kind of had this brand persona, this idea of like what you were going to deliver to the industry? What was the first thing you did to market your business?
Well, it's interesting because at one point we were, and I started the business. I didn't really have any money. So I wasn't like, dad gave me a whack of money to spend. So as I was making money, I was reinvesting back in the business. But School of Hard Knocks is the best way to grow and learn. So, we started allocating money towards, different venues. So first back in the day, print was really popular. So we used to do that. Obviously, things have changed. But we used to always measure and hold our dollars accountable. So every quarter, we meet with our marketing team and say, what's working, what's not working. And initially, we didn't have the budget to do everything. So we were kind of be very discerning as to what we chose and selected to do and really monitor that carefully to see if we're getting measurable results. Today, we're kind of everywhere. So we decided let's kind of go, all in all capacity. So be it billboards, bus shelters, CP24. As it turns out, Raptors were pretty good. It worked out visually well for us. When I was there at courtside, they were a winning team. So people saw us there as well. So it helped us grow our brand in Toronto as well. That wasn't by design. It just ended up being that way, right? But I think at the end of the day, measure every dollar, hold it accountable, see what's working, see what's not working. If it's working today, it may not work 6 months down the road. So you can't assume what's worked in the past will also work in the present and future. If you're being mindful and you have a good team in place with good metrics, that's going to help you grow your business, ensure you're on the right track and not spending your money in the wrong areas, which is important as well.
You know what? And that's when I look at like the first place that anybody's going to start with their marketing, outside of just developing like kind of like what are you going to bring to market, is what kind of money have you got to spend on it. And often I always hear, well, it all depends if it works. Right. And my whole thing is no, it doesn't depend if it works. It depends if you can afford it. Because perfect situation right here. Everything you're doing seems to obviously work. There's a very, very small percentage of people that are going to be able to afford to go to that level with their marketing. So budget is important. Now, you said you guys review. How often are you guys reviewing? Doing the measuring?
Every quarter, and if it's real busy, twice a year. We get together the whole marketing team, and we're going through every single line item with expenses and saying, are we getting value, utility of value here? Yes, no. What can we maybe double down on? What maybe should we reduce? And that's a really important exercise because the world and the market's changing so rapidly that if you're not doing that exercise, you're falling a step behind.
And, I'm always suggesting to my coaching clients, we're doing this every quarter, right? So as the first quarter's ending, we're going to plan, we're going to review, we're going to look at the numbers and compare to the, prepare for the next quarter. And I believe that, which is very blunt logic, but a direct correlation between the actual deals that you're doing, where they're coming from, and where you're spending your marketing dollars. And I imagine you guys look at all of that stuff to go, is that channel producing?
Yeah, it's imperative to do that. And that we have to be on top of that for sure.
Right. And then you brought up the Raps and sitting courtside and how that was helpful. Do you believe that you had a direct correlation on their success because you were courtside? Because if so, we need you to be courtside again.
It's funny because Nav, my good buddy, the super fan who's been there 25 years, he's never missed a game. First year I go, he goes, Sammy, I've been here through the highs and lows and years where they hardly won games. And the first year you jump on the bandwagon, they win. What the heck, right? So we had a lot of fun, though. We were actually traveling private jets with a few people to the away games of the playoffs. It was just a great experience. Yeah,
that's amazing. Well, we're certainly going to hold you to it, man. But you've been in real estate for how long now?
About 30 years.
Okay. And may I ask the question around transactions, average amount of transactions per year?
Yeah. So last year, ironically, we hit a milestone. We did over $1 billion in sales, which was a goal we've set forth for a few years. And we did over 1,000 transactions. So both those goals were ones we set about 3-4 years ago. They seem like lofty goals, but last year we were looking in mid-December. I said, I think we can hit these numbers. We're really close. So we put the pedal to the metal and hit some, pretty big goals for us anyway. So yeah.
No, that's hey man, that's some impressive stuff right there. And I was watching your bio video on your website where you were talking about a lot of the things that you believe.
Yes.
And when we look at the numbers of where you're at, and we look at the longevity in the business, I mean, to say like, were you an overnight success? Naturally, the answer is probably no. It took a lot of time and effort.
Overnight success in 30 years.
Yeah, in 30 years, right? So talk to me about that effort. Talk to me about that mindset, that a lot of that positivity that you share in your video around the way people need to be going about their biz. Because, I think that one thing we see in this business is oftentimes, people get in and they believe that, beyond just spending the money on the marketing and whatnot, but, I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to go after a deal. And I think the mindset is wrong. I think that if you wake up every day going after a deal, you're going to be very sorely disappointed every day. Whereas if you wake up thinking, how can I be positive? How can I build more relationships? How can I help more people? The good stuff seems to just follow.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's been a lot of fun, even this last 6 weeks. And every day I just have fun with it. And, I've been writing personally, forget the team, and we've got a great team of supporting cast, 2-3 deals a day over the last, 30 days. It's super exciting. It's a big charge. And, but you do it really on solid foundation. And a lot of this is just now referral business, repeat business, and it's really nice when you get to the point, and everybody can get to that point where they've worked hard enough and they've treated their clients properly. So they're getting a referral business, which makes it easy. Now it's a hot lead. It's not a cool or lukewarm. You've got something that's on your platter. And, it's really then hard to misstep. If you're treating your clients with honesty and integrity, you're in good shape. And, interestingly, I was sharing this probably Christmas party a few years ago, and I was rummaging through some old papers. And back then I was with Remax. And in 2003, I was top 1 or 2 in Canada and some really big players there. And fast forward 17 years, nobody's there. So one of the things we're most proud about is not only getting to the top, but staying to the top at the top, which is equally as hard, if not harder.
And that's the thing. And so, now does that just come down to how you guys live every single day, what that overall passion comes to the table?
Well, I'm very competitive, number one, so we don't want to, that's important for you. I've come from an athletic background. So secondly, ideally not an auction, but and number two, I think we build the business properly, right? So I think we do the right things day in, day out. We're looking at different value-added service to bring to the table for our client base. And so they're the benefactors. And I think we always have that mindset. We're not just resting on our laurels, which is easy to do sometimes if you think you have a level of success, but we're thinking, let's just keep going. We've got to grow it to a good thing, and let's kind of keep that value to our clients, and our business will continue to grow. And that's what's basically happened.
Okay. So here then, I mean, for anybody that's tuned into this, that might be, out of province or down in the States, they may not recognize when I say, Mississauga necessarily, but bottom line, drive around Mississauga, outskirts of Toronto, whatever. I mean, hard pressed not to see your billboards, hard pressed not to see some Sam McDadi advertising all over the place. And I know that even doing presentations and being on stages and talking with people, there are people out there that go like, this guy's just everywhere. It's so tough to compete with. Then there's people that try to emulate what they see, but they don't know what they don't know. And so they try to do what's on the surface, implement that, and hope and pray that something's going to kick in. Now, very specifically the billboards, okay? And I'll just use those as an example here. I talked about CP24. I was blown away by the number of charitable organizations that you were involved with. Like, I don't even know how you keep up with all this stuff. The magazines, you name it. But let's talk about support, right? Support marketing. Sam, if I'm a realtor and I decide, you know what, I'm going to go put up a billboard as well. I'll put it somewhere else than Mississauga, okay? But I want to put up a billboard. What would you recommend if I'm going to do that? What are some of the things that I need to be thinking about, or some of the other marketing channels that I should be leveraging in order to make the billboard really have impact?
Yeah, I think it's a synergistic effect. So I agree. If you're just doing a billboard, end of story, that's not enough. For us, we're doing billboards. Now we're on CP24. CP24, we're doing mail outs. So we're creating brand identity on many different levels. So it's just not one piece. So if it's just billboards and there's no real message, that's great, but that doesn't really get you to where you need to be. So I think you've got to tie it all together to make sense of it and to really see your business grow and flourish. So one piece of the puzzle, billboards, is great, but for us, it's a multitude of pieces that's got us to where we are today. That gives us brand identity, but it's not, if that's all we did and that was it, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Okay. Can I dig a little deeper on that then and say, okay, so we've got a billboard. Are you flyering the neighborhood where again, the billboards are there's a lot of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're doing that full time. We've got full time. We took a sabbatical during the COVID period, the first round. We're just ramping that up big time now, especially with the lack of inventory. We don't have enough listings. We usually carry 150, 200 listings. Right now, we're a little bit low, as I think everybody is in the GTA, because things are selling fluidly. But yeah, that's an important piece for us. We have somebody just dedicated to doing that.
Inventory seems to be low, like across the board right now.
Yeah.
And I do want to ask you about some of those things, but so billboards, flyers, we've got, again, the TV stuff going on. Does anybody there do any door knocking?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have door knockers. So it runs a gamut. We're pretty much doing every single piece that we can to generate business opportunities. And I think that's very important. But for me, what I know, and I always tell our teammates, and when I talk to different realtors at large, do something that's sustainable. So if you're knocking doors for a day and call it a day, then you shouldn't even do it, right? So there's people I know, and we used to brainstorm with different groups. One fellow who's a friend, Tom, he loves door knocking. He would do that continuously, and he enjoyed it. So that's something he should do. For me, I knew I didn't want to do that for 40 years, but within, we have a lot of people do door knocking as well that enjoy it. And I think that's the key piece, passion.
Which is interesting though, because we got, ask 10 people, 9 people tell you they don't want to go door knocking, and 10 out of 10 will probably tell you they don't want to be door knocked. But one thing I found through the years being in this industry and talking with the thousands and thousands of realtors I've spoken to is that 99% of realtors will not do it. Of the 4%, 96% won't do it. Of the 4% that do, 99% see business. Like, door knocking is actually a great source of business and really should be implemented if you are going to farm, do a bus bench, do a bus shelter. Would you agree with that?
We won't let our team members farm without knocking and doing some events in the community. Otherwise, it's all for naught.
Thank you. That's where I was going with it, right? Because there's so much more to it than literally just putting up a billboard or a bus bench, right? I was speaking with somebody earlier on this morning, $1,200 for a bus shelter. So what else are we doing? And he's got a, for a one-man operation, fresh in the biz, he's got a great little marketing budget going on of about $1,500 a month. He's doing some phenomenal things, doing a lot of business. He's got one bus shelter. So we were talking about the strategy around that and then implementing farming. But looking at the budget, farming flyers don't necessarily work to fit in the budget with the bus shelter he's got going on right now. So it's looking at that process and going, what is the shelter doing? Yet when we go back to what we said a few minutes ago of tracking each deal, of where it comes from, knowing where the source is, when we look at the tracker that we use together, we could tell it's not even coming from that stuff. It's actually coming from the contact list. Right. So how important is contact list then in this business?
Yeah, it's your database, your management, you're managing your database. It's your lifeline. If you can't do that effectively, you're not going to have longevity. So, because the problem is a lot of times everybody's looking, as I watched the movie the other day as a refresher, Glenn Ross, but it's interesting because everybody's looking for those red hot leads, right? And truthfully, you get leads that are kind of run the gamut. Some are cold, cool, lukewarm, but if you have a process to nurture those leads, eventually they're going to warm up, right? So, but it's up to you. It's incumbent upon you to do that. Otherwise, somebody else is going to get the business. And if you're not having a good database management system, you're missing out a lot of opportunities. It's vital.
We talk about leads. You bring up leads, and I want to come back to the database thing in a sec. But you talk about leads, and we know that these days there's a big push over the past. I mean, this wasn't here 30 years ago when you started with this thing of like go chase leads or online leads. This didn't exist. First part to that is, lead generation is this bright, shiny object in our industry these days. Where again, there's a lot of belief that says, if I pay enough money, I've been led to believe that I don't need to work very hard because they're just going to deliver leads to me every single day. And I mean, we know that there's companies that are delivering leads, but I guess the first thing is you guys obviously leverage the online lead generation, right? Because you're doing everything out there.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
But then you said that it's about follow-up. So I mean, with the fact that you guys leverage those things, right? What are the realities of conversion when it comes to getting a total cold lead, like stranger from an online source, and converting that person into an actual client, even to a contact. I mean, you just mentioned about CRM and follow-up. Tell me more about that. Like what kind of things should people be thinking about when they get these cold leads, and what they should be doing to follow up outside of just follow up?
Yeah. So,
like, there's magic to it.
I don't think there's magic for sure. It's not rocket science, but I think, first and foremost, when you're taking that call, if it's online, if they provide a phone number, it's better to have a face-to-face phone call versus email communication. But you have to be in a mindset where you're present to take that call and you can make that connection, right? Because if you can't make that connection, you're busy, you're showing a house, you're doing yourself a disservice because you lose that opportunity. And number two, I think the minute you make that call, and there's a series of questions you need to ask, you want to ask to make sure that, from a qualification perspective and, breaking the ice, et cetera. But at the end, you've got to have a mechanism to follow up. And there are times, listen, it's a tough gig out there because, if people think they're going to bat 100%, that's impossible. You can bat, of the online leads, you can bat 10, 15% where you're actually converting. That's a pretty good number. I mean, you're not going to, the expectation of 50% is a fallacy. I don't think it's going to happen, right? But I mean, you need to make sure. I always felt in the old days when I was taking a lot of bad calls, and back then it was more print calls, that as long as I knew that I did everything I could to convert that opportunity, I was happy. Sometimes they're just kind of not there, and that's fine. But I still would now track them and keep them. And we have somebody right now that's very, being very hard on our teammates. If they're not tracking and recording, they're off leads. So if you're not actually taking that call and recording it, then how are you going to follow up? It's impossible. So you're taking off rotation for a week until you can show that you're demonstrating you're doing what you need to do to follow up with the leads we're providing you as well.
And when we talk about follow up, I mean this whole idea of I want to get automation. I want to implement automation. What's your thought on that? I mean, I'll preface that whole thing and just say that sales is sales. There's a reason you're a salesperson. Not a sales machine you're a sales machine, but there's a reason you're a salesperson rather than, being a computer or robot. There's a reason that we as humans are involved in this business. What's your thought around the automation of follow-up versus what I'll call blunt hustle, like the gut check?
Well, I think the human interaction is really important, right? So I think that's when I'm on an appointment. I mean, what might separate me from other realtors? I mean, obviously we have a lot of value-added services. It's the age-old thing. If they like and trust you, you're going to transact, right? So They feel at the end of that discussion, that Sam's an honest guy. He's told us a lot of things that others wouldn't have told us. He's being very transparent, and you've got good energy and all the above. You're going to do business. So I think that human interaction is critical. That's going to turn into success or failure. So if I'm on an appointment and I'm like really excited, or hi, how are you, John? I mean, you're going to lose them. So that energy, they can feed off the energy or lack thereof, right? And I think that human element, you can't really put a price on that.
And then when we talk about, that point of the gut check as well, like scheduling, right? The one thing I'll say is like, so I'm talking to this guy, Sam, and Sam said to me, call me. I'm not interested. Call me in a couple months. In my mind, I'm going to put Sam in the system. I'm going to write down what we talked about. I'm going to write down what kind of mannerisms this guy's all about. I'm going to write down what we talked about. And then he said, call me in a couple months. I'm going to call him in like a month. Right.
Or 2 weeks or 2 weeks
or 2. Thank you. But this is not like, okay, set him up on the auto drip campaign and then let's see if he calls me back.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. You want to close deals, go after people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And listen, you have to do it in a diplomatic, respectful way, but be relentless.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's right now, because of that low inventory, and the fact that, listings are like, you sort of like hit a jackpot. You win the lottery when you get a listing these days right now, because everybody running around with buyers is just going, like a chicken with their head cut off. There's a lot of people thinking, hey, I'm going to change my strategy and I'm going to focus on sellers. And my thoughts are, well, if you're in real estate and a buyer came to you, would you just tell them like, no? And so the whole thing becomes like this strategy around just going after sellers versus just going after buyers versus just, hey, if the business comes, deal with it. What's your thoughts around just going after sellers or just going after buyers? And maybe I say that like on behalf of the mentality of the Sam McDadi team, right? The mastermind behind this thing. Is this we're going to go after sellers? There's this like look, if they want to do something in real estate, we're here.
No, I mean, it's interesting because there are some people who subscribe, okay, a team member should either be a listing agent or a buyer agent. And I'm like, no, they need to be trained on all facets of the business. They need to be a buyer agent and a listing agent. So they will, to show that buyer who maybe now has a listing and be able to now also be able to transact on both sides of the ledger. Because now, if assuming you're dealing with a buyer, and now you say, okay, well, John, now I'm going to give you to Jill, my teammate, who's a listing specialist. To me, that doesn't make sense. So I think you only train all facets of the business. And I think it doesn't, like, whether now for sure you want listings, but buyers, we're still doing a lot of buyer deals too. So you want both pieces of the puzzle. Like, you don't want to just kind of exclusively limit yourself on one kind of side of the ledger, business ledger.
What's the big trick to winning multiples these days?
Oh, it's for sure. I mean, obviously it goes without saying, you want to be firm, you want to have a bank draft, you want to be front and center. Today with COVID, it's different. In the old days, if it's a competing offer, I'd like to be there. Like, I like to present my case, I like to bring my buyers there, I like to be able to try and cement the deal. But it's also being nice to the listing agent too, right? So if you're not so nice to them, they may not really help you out as well. You want to know if you've got 1 or 2 rounds, you want to know the lay of the land. So there's a lot of variables, but sometimes it just gets crazy. So sometimes we'll put a ceiling. We'll tell our clients, listen, beyond this, it's up to you. We don't recommend going higher than that, because you might find yourself offside in a few months when maybe there's more normalcy in the marketplace. But you also want to counsel your clients so that, they don't pay excessive dollars because they get caught up in that, bidding war frenzy as well.
Well, that's the big thing that I'm trying to figure out right now. And I've asked that question to many, many people. And I mean, nobody really has the real deal answer, but I like to get, the different feelers out there, especially from leaders in the industry around, somebody's qualified at 750, house is listed at 750. So they're looking at the 750 home. Well, in this market, we know that house is probably going 859, depending on where it's at, right? We know they're only qualified at 750. How do we deal with that buyer? Do we show them the 750 home and then go, look, it's going to go up. You got to go figure out how to get more money? Or do we show them like a 600 home, thinking we know that they're going to, where I'm going with that?
I think it's a discussion with the buyer saying, listen, if we're going to show you a 750 house and that's what your lender said you're qualified for, I mean, there's probably not going to be much merit, because it's going to go historically in last month or so, 100, 150 over ask or 200 over ask. So unless we can come up with a differential down payment or your parents co-sign, maybe it's an exercise in futility. So I think you just lay it down with them and say, if you want to see, we're happy to show it to you. And, if you want to only put a 750 offer, we will, but chances are we're going to get blown out of the water. But unless you can find different ways to achieve a higher price point, then maybe we should look at a 650 to get to 750. So I mean, they might say, listen, Dad will help out, no problem. He's retired and he wants to have a nice house, so he'll throw an extra 100 at us. And then obviously that opens up a different dialogue.
But there's the importance of communication.
That's everything.
Right. Yeah. Which you also just mentioned with if you're on the buying side and you've got a listing agent, communicate. I mean, how often we've heard from people, like, they don't hear back from the listing agent. They don't hear back about whether they, their offer was even looked at or accepted or whatever. Like, there's no follow-up there yet. And I've had this before with people where I've said to people, I said, look, you may have that experience this time around, but what can you do to make it better the next time around? And it was that whole idea of communicate, right? Get in touch with that listing agent and say, look, I was in the middle of a deal with you. You don't even know it probably because you had a lot of people there, but your process sucks. And I say that with all due respect and love, and do it in a way where you're being completely relational, where you can almost actually sit down and have a real genuine, like, cup of coffee and a chuckle with this person. So that the next time around you see this person, you go, hey, we know each other. Yeah. What's going on? Flip a little text in the back message, just to find out a little bit more information, right? It's the relationship.
Yeah, I think it's really important. You hit it on a great point, because a lot of times people focus on client relationships, but also realtor relationships is really important. So if you treat a realtor really well, they're always want to bring an offer to your listing, and they'll tell a buyer, by the way, Sam and his team are always very gracious and they'll work with us. Don't worry. So I think also being very respectful to your peers is just equally as important.
Yeah. We see a lot of that in this industry about the lack of respect for each other, the lack of communication with one another. And I think that when you communicate properly and you have the lines open, and understanding that it is a very small world, the chance that you're going to bump into this agent again on another deal, it is a very high propensity that you will bump into each other, right? But for some reason, again, a lot of times in this industry, people aren't thinking about that. They're just moving, and they're not thinking about what opportunity is down the road as well.
Yeah, and if you don't treat a realtor well, he'll remember that.
Right. Remember. Well, okay. So talk to me, realtor referrals. Like, is this a big income source? Is this something you guys focus on? Obviously, you get them because of relationships you've had for 30 years. Is this something that you guys focus on heavily?
We don't focus on it as heavily these days. Actually, at one point, I used to put an ad in the REM magazine saying that, for anybody across Canada, if you're wanting to refer somebody in Mississauga, Oakville, Burlington, and, we give a 30%, we give them an extra 5 points on top. So we experimented with that. I'm not actively looking for the referral business. But of course, it comes our way because we do have a lot of good relationships with realtors. And ironically, a lot of realtors who are part-timers, who they'll sometimes try their hand selling their house and give it to me after, because they'll say, Sam, we tried, didn't work out. So, you're the full-timer, go run with it. And we've had a lot of success that way as well, too. Because I think they respect, our position in the industry and the fact that we've, maintained integrity and honesty throughout our years as well.
So, and people around the area know you, and looking at how much business you guys are getting from these community efforts of yours. And we talk about the fact that the database is important and the follow-up is key. Is the Sam McDadi team focused on, and I mean, I'll answer my own question and say, obviously you are, but are you operating the business off of relationships, or are we going for like total world domination in terms of, marketing, just trying to pump out as much volume as possible?
No, we're definitely relationship oriented, but we definitely would like to dominate too, right? So I think probably a bit of both, right? So I think if you said, Sam, do you want to dominate the real estate landscape? And kind of, yeah, of course. I mean, so yeah, so a bit of both for sure.
But you obviously are. You're already doing stuff out there that people want to emulate and want to do and want to understand how, how's this guy spending so much money and doing so much out there? Looking at the world of online leads, which I brought up a moment ago, do we recommend that an agent, if they've got only so much of a marketing budget, and we're talking like $500, $1,000, $1,500 a month max, should online lead gen be the place that they focus?
I would say certainly try put a certain percentage of your funds available and to see measure the results. And if you're good at converting those online leads, because it's a process too. But I think that, sometimes you're getting good, cold, good leads, bad leads, and that can run in any different platform. But I think tinker and measure the results, right? So if you've got $1,500, you might say, okay, I'm going to allocate $750 on online leads. I think that's a good place to start. And then to see the results. And if you're getting good results, obviously you can double down, right? So, and the challenge is with most realtors, and I remember talking to a group of 8,000 realtors, and, I've always been very open about how we achieved our success, because I believe there's always room on top for other people. It's not like singular. So if there's another 5 that can, have numbers that we have, then good for them. And I'm proud for them to do that. So I also share everything. But I always know that, you can talk to a group of 10,000 people. In our case, we spoke to 8,000. And, I challenged them at the end. I said, listen, I know what's typically going to happen. Everybody gets raw. And then a week or two later, they go back due to the day-to-day things that they've done in the past. And they don't really implement too much of what we share today. But I challenge you to be one of those people who actually takes this to task and becomes a better realtor permanently, not a short-term 2-week gig, right? Because really at the end, most people in life aren't ready to pay the price for success. They want it, but they're not ready to pay the price. If you are ready to pay the price, and it's a great vocation for you because it checks off the boxes, then go for it. I mean, just, one life, I always tell people, just why do you want to be mediocre? Be the best you can be. And then at the end you can say, I gave it my all. And that's all you can ask for.
And you know what, there it is giving your all, putting in your effort, trying what you can and seeing what works. And again, like you said, tinkering and then measuring and looking, and really seeing what works for you in this business. And I think that, I think that anytime it comes to, again, the mass marketing, the big marketing, the billboards and the flyers and the online lead gen, that I think that, again, support and budget are absolutely crucial to understand what you've got. And, if you're going to do this, how are you going to support it with that, so that you're building enough mind share that people really do think about you first when they think about their home, right? Direct mail. You mentioned you use direct mail, sending out newsletters and stuff.
We do. I send newsletters out. So it's 3 or 4 pronged. I send newsletters out to my past clients. We do sale your campaign, I think every quarter, 4 times a year. That's about 12,000 clients. Each of our team members who elected to farm, then we do obviously drop-offs for them. We have a girl who's a full-time courier that works for us as well, Jennifer. So if we've just sold a house, she'll do drop-offs if we think we have clients looking as well, and we might have had multiple offers and there's still a need for houses. So yeah, it's multifaceted, but we definitely are engaged in that.
Yeah, because I know that, some of your team members are using our program kits for the newsletters and the flyers and stuff, which is amazing. Yeah. What about social media? The aspect around social. This morning, we posted out, we put up about the podcast. It was reshared by you. And I'm curious, you specifically, what kind of involvement do you have in social media? What kind of involvement, does social media have in Sam McDadi's day?
Yeah, it's growing a lot. It's growing a lot. So we have one gal, Shannon, who does her social media. She does that pretty much full time. And she's great with our art director, Tom. So they come up with creatives. And we think it's an important way to get messages across now. And it's also important to build your base. So if you've got a base of 50, well, you're not getting the message across to too many people, right? So we're, about 16,000 in IG. We want to get to 20, 25. We're growing probably 1,000 a month now. So we've got really good momentum. So we want to make sure that we get good eyes on us and have good content. But, we post now sometimes properties, also lifestyle, but properties get a lot of looks and people are asking to see them. So it's been beneficial as well. And I think that's an important step for us today.
And are you yourself on there? Like I know when Sam McDadi reposted the podcast today, is that you?
So Shannon asked me, do you want to repost? I said, absolutely.
Cool. Okay.
So
cool.
we kind of are in sync on what we're doing. I said, yeah, let's repost it for sure.
And are you like,
and I can play around a little bit. I mean, I will, more often I'll leave it to my team to do it, but I'm capable of doing it.
100%. And I don't doubt it. I guess my thing is, we look at how much time so many agents spend on social media in a day, like so much time on a day. And you're going like, do you sell any real estate? Well, on the flip side, I look at you and I go, this guy's way too busy. How can you spend that much time on social media?
I like looking at the posts, see what's out there. But we have something that's managed. And listen, one of the things, and one of my early lessons in my first few years in real estate was, I took on all the pieces. So I was underwriting the deal, sending it to our mortgage lenders. I was writing the ads, everything. So pretty much all roads, stopped at me, right? But at a certain point, I realized, if I'm going to have longevity, I can't burn out. And this is a recipe for a burnout. And then I realized, listen, figure out what my hourly rate, what my value is. And if it's less than that, I shouldn't do it. So, if I'm worth X dollars per hour and this task is $20 an hour, I shouldn't do that task. So, I've loaded up so much on admin. I've got 5 personal administrators, and that's freed me up. So in the morning, I'm able to do my workouts and my but I'm still working, but I've got great capable people to manage my day-to-day affairs. I'm great in front of people. I'm great at negotiating. So where I'm strong at, that's where I spend my time. So if I'm doing the administrative duties, which I did too much in the early days, that's a mistake because my costs or my value is more than that.
How many people you got on the team now?
So we've got about 50-ish realtors. We're purchased a spot in Burlington, one in Toronto. So we're gonna have 6 offices. So we're in the growth mode for sure. And, admin, we're very heavy on that too. I'm a big believer of having high quality admin folks to help your business grow and flourish.
Oh, 100%. Now, okay, let me go way back in time. I'm taking a total stab at this and saying that an admin was the first hire you did.
Yes.
How did you know you were ready? And how did you know you were ready? You could say, Dave, I was totally busy. That's how I was ready. Okay, fine. How did you pay for that? Like, how did you think about the dollar aspect going, oh my God, can I afford this person? Or did you just know immediately? It's like, I can afford it. I'm ready for it. Let's go. What was the?
Yeah, I knew I could afford it at that time. And I realized that I was starting to feel like I was getting tired and doing things I shouldn't be doing and getting up at 6 a.m. to write ads and to do things that I just thought my value was more than that. So I did it at a point where it was really abundantly clear. It was time to do it, where I could have done it a few years before that, maybe had those questions, is it the right time? But at that time, it was past the right time. It was definitely time. Yeah. So I knew I had to execute. Yeah.
Where did you go to find somebody? Just put the word out, or like?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was on a listing appointment, and one gal who now still is with me 20 years later, she said, I just finished university. What are you looking to do? I'm not sure. Maybe in real estate. I said, drop off a resume. She did that in 20 minutes. So I was kind of impressed. And then we brought her on, and she's been with me 20 years later. So it wasn't, I did any disc analysis, any of that other. It was just kind of my gut. And, this seems like a good fit. Let's give it a go. And yeah, it worked out pretty good. So. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, cool. So again, the gut check. Interesting, right?
Okay, sure.
So with all that then, you're obviously a crazy busy guy. And I, again, watching the bio video and understanding your love for sports. And one of the things that I thought about right away when I was watching this thing, I'm like, where does this guy get the time? Right? Where does he get the time for it all? So I'm curious on 2 fronts. The first one is, did you ever have a mentor, a coach? Do you work with people now that help you with any of that stuff? What's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I was asked that question, I think yesterday. So in the morning, my day looks like this. 8 o'clock in the morning, I get a massage. 9 o'clock, I do yoga. 10 o'clock, I have my trainer, who used to be former Mr. Natural Universe, comes over, and then I do some boxing. So the first 3 hours are Sam time. And I'm held accountable because everybody comes to my house and they need to be there because, they're making sure I do what I have to do, right? I've got a chef who prepares all my meals organically, everything. So right now I've got my food here with me. So I'm gonna have a nice big salad afterwards so I control what goes in my body, because I'm a big believer of health as well. And if you don't have health, you don't have anything, right? So I really appreciate that with our teammates. We're building a gym in the back of one of our offices so we can get them training as well. So that's really important. But I think time, you have 24 hours, make the best of it. So I'm not watching 8 hours of TV every day. I have no desire to do that. Now I will. I got up at 5 a.m, to watch my guy, Rafael Nadal, who unfortunately lost in the French Open. So
I know you're a tennis guy, right?
Yeah. So yeah. Rafa, I was hoping he'd win his 21st slam. He's tied with Roger Federer. But anyway, so I will get up to watch sports events because I do love sports, and to me it has a lot of meaning. And I actually, sports is really interesting because if people are athletes, learn how to compete, learn how to deal under pressure, they usually excel in anything else they do, be it real estate or any other venue they take on. So I think knowing how to deal in a pressure environment is really an important element of success as well. Athletes show that. They've demonstrated that, especially singular sports like tennis. You can't blame your goalie or your right winger or your left. It's you, right? So, and I think we've hired athletes and they've always done well because they have that winner mindset. I think that's important as well.
And so your time management is really, you've got a lot of folks there that are helping you, guide you throughout a day, be it, from admins to chefs to trainers to anybody that's going to help you move throughout your day and stay on schedule with everything that needs to get done.
For sure, but I'm very disciplined. So for me, I'm a self-starter and I'm disciplined, but there are good pieces to my formula as well.
Right. And I've got a question that came through here from our VIP room here from one of our MindShare masters. They wanted to know, have you got a standard marketing package for every listing? Is there something standard about it, or is it, does it become unique per listing?
Yes, great question. So it is unique. So we have a listing binder where, and it depends on the house. Obviously, different price point dictates a different marketing strategy. So there's nothing really standard. There's some standard elements, like we have our full-time stagers that'll go visit our houses, full-time inspector that works for us, all of the above. But the marketing initiatives will vary based on the price point and where we think is the right, place to market that property.
Okay, cool. So now going back to where I was with the time management thing and moving throughout the day and getting everything done. How do you know it has been a successful day at the end of your day? What is it? What's that measuring stick? Because again, I mean, 1,000 deals a year, whatever, there's obviously a number of deals pumping through every day, but the average realtor is not getting 1,000 deals a year, and therefore not getting, a deal a day. And so to wake up and not get the deal today, we cannot look at our day and say it was not a success. Instead, we got to look at the other side of things. Curious, how do you gauge success in a day?
Yeah, well, for sure nowadays, deals is one element. So if we had a day where we did 10 deals as a team, then we're happy. That's a successful day. But I think even equally as important is following up on all the tasks that were set forth for you to do that day. So all our calls we had to make, we made sure we made them all, the assignments, so if you're doing all the things you have to do. So in the old days, it's a little different today because we have different ways of tracking. I used to have a to-do list I'd carry from the night before to the next day. And these are the top 10 things I had to do the next day. So if I tackled all my, to-do list projects and did that successfully, made all my calls, then it's a good day. And of course, sales is an added bonus. And, that's definitely a metric or benchmark that's important to us. But following the process to get us there is equally as important.
And then I'll throw it out there to you. And I think I know where you're going to go here based on learning from you today. But what if I don't get it tomorrow and then the next day, and then it's like 5 days have gone by and I haven't gotten the deal, but I've done everything I'm supposed to do? Thoughts? Encouragement, words of wisdom?
Yeah, but I'm peaceful. As long as I know I'm doing the right things day in, day out, because I can use, my teammates as an example. Sometimes they're on a really good streak and things are all clicking and flowing, and other times they're not. I can tell they're working really hard. So we'll have a sit down. Guys, listen, I know you haven't done a deal within the last week or two, but you're doing all the right things and you're going to have the floodgates open up next week. So don't worry. Just keep doing the things you're doing on a day in, day out basis as you should, and results will come. Now, if they're making some mistakes, that's a different dialogue. So if they're saying the wrong things, their phraseology, their verbiage isn't correct, that's leading to their demise, or they're saying too much, 2 years, 1 month, use it in that proportion, then it's time for us to do some training as well.
I like it. Yeah, no, because I think that there's that reality around what are our expectations in a day? What are we measuring in a day? One thing that, again, I teach everybody, that I'm working with is, focus on the time management, focus on what are the things you need to get done today. Chip away at that every single sort of hour of the day. And as you're progressing through your day, reward yourself by kind of marking it off and saying, I've got it done. And by the end of the day, if you've gone through your day and you've more or less achieved everything you set out to achieve. Whether you got the deal or you didn't get the deal, your intentions were in the right place, your actions were in the right place, you will have it come. And I mean, we all see it, the ups and downs, right? We see good markets, bad markets. We see, weeks where we're getting a ton of business and weeks where it's like, does everybody remember that I even exist right now? But if you put in the effort, things will come, right?
100%. If you're doing what you need to do, everything will take care of itself.
So looking at the time here, we've got our MindShare Masters in the VIP room, and we do that exclusive Q&A with them, and they've asked a few questions here today. And when we get off live air, I'm going to open up that room for them very quickly to see if they got any cues for you, if that's good. But I wanted to ask you before we get off air, what last words, tips, advice can you share so that everybody who's tuned in can use something from Sam McDadi to get out there and help themselves build a lot more mindshare?
Well, I think it's really important to recognize today we're sitting in a pretty good place in the real estate sector, but it wasn't always that way. And I believe you have to have the belief that even when things are adverse, that you're going to work through that. And there was many times early in my career, I could have quit and wouldn't have seen the successes we had today, but I believe that I was doing something that I could be passionate about for a long term. And I believe that I had the right skill sets to succeed. So I stayed the course where others might not have. And that's unfortunate, because if you know this is where you need to be or should be, it fits your profile, then you're going to have some adversity. That's just life journey, but don't quit, because if you quit, unfortunately, you don't see the results you could have seen. And for me, I'm a perfect example. I didn't come from any money. In fact, what motivated me was my dad had a successful business at 15. When I was 15 years of age, he lost everything. So my motivation was to take care of my family. So I had this aha moment. I got to start working hard, go to university, educate myself so my parents would be okay. My dad died 20 years ago this year, but just before he died, he was at the hospital and he knew the family would be taken care of. So that was important for me, right? So I think know that if this is your calling, don't worry about some negativity and adversity. You'll work through that.
Love it, man. Thank you. Where can people find you, Sam?
Sam@McDadi.com, and my direct number is 416-801-2400.
It was a perfect opportunity for you to just say, just come to Toronto.
I'm in Toronto. It's supposed to be today.
Not a lot of people get to leverage that one, but you certainly do. No, Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure being able to pick your brain today. I really appreciate you joining us on the MindShare podcast.
It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
You bet. Thank you. You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you downloaded our free Industry Syndicate podcast app, or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a free consultation call. We'll learn more about what you're looking to achieve and how I will help you do just that. Also, don't forget our push to 100 is on. So be sure to go to iTunes, subscribe to the show, leave a review, rate us, and you will be entered into a draw for a free one-to-one strategy coaching call with me. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at MindShare 101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan 101. I want to once again thank the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Don't forget to follow the Buzz Conference at the Buzz Conference on Instagram, and either click the link in their bio or visit thebuzzconference.com to grab your free tickets for our March 25th to 26th event, and tune in to the speaker spotlights happening every Wednesday this month. I also want to thank Emily Misk from Port Credit Mortgages and your mortgage coach for being here with us today. And be sure to follow her on Instagram at Port Credit Mortgages. And of course, I want to once again thank Kids Keep in Touch Systems for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked this out yet, just go to my site, mindshare101.com, and click on Marketing. This has been another episode of the MindShare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.